Good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for the opportunity that's been extended to me to speak to you today on behalf of Potter Children's Home and Family Ministries. We are located in South Central Kentucky in the city of Bowling Green. And I have come here today to thank you all for your years of support for Potter in the home. I thank you for your participation. We could not do the things that we do without your participation and your partnership. Whenever I hear somebody for the first time, I wonder who that fella is. I'll give myself just a small introduction. My wife Kim and I have been married for 40 years. She deserves a double gold medal for putting up with me. We have two children, Matthew and Sarah. And we have three granddaughters, and I got pictures for you on my phone if you want to see them afterwards. Willow's age 13, Emma Kate is 11, and Isabel, who is 6, is the boss of my son's household. She runs the show in Richmond, Virginia. I'll call up, and I'll be talking to my son Matthew, and I'll hear in the background, "It's time for your bath." "I'm not taking a bath." "It's time to do." "I'm not doing that." You can just hear in the background. She's running the show there. But we're so proud of our grandchildren. I've been working for Potter Children's Home for 8 years. I've been preaching the gospel for 39 years. I spent 30 years in located work. And then the last 9 years, I've been preaching on a part-time basis at the South Warren Church of Christ in Bowling Green, at least the last 5 years there. And so I send you greetings not only from Potter, but also from the South Warren Church of Christ. It's a wonderful congregation. With that said, let's talk about Potter Children's Home and the things that we do that you support. And in order to do that, I want us to turn first of all to Scripture, to Exodus, the 22nd chapter. Anytime God's people get together, we should have the book open. Amen? We should definitely do that, and we're going to do that this morning, in Exodus, the 22nd chapter. Now, you know about the story found in the book of Exodus. God had heard the pleas of his children, Israel, who were in Egyptian slavery over 400 years. God hears their cry and is going to deliver them and take them to the promised land. He sends a very reluctant servant in Moses in order to undertake this task. After much deliberation and much difficulty, they make their way out of Egypt. They're out in the wilderness now. They're at the region of Mount Sinai in Exodus chapter 22. And you know from your Bible studies, Exodus 20 contains what we call the 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets of stone that God wrote on his finger, these commandments. But you also know from your study, and I remember from mine, that there were a lot more than just 10 commandments that the Israelites were given. They were given a multitude. And I want to talk about a couple of those commandments today, and they reflect the very nature of the God that we serve. Now, we're just going to talk about a very small portion of the nature of God, but nonetheless, it is important to study. We're going to look at the nature of our God and how he feels about the most vulnerable people of society. He had this in mind for the Israelites even before they made it to the promised land. In Exodus chapter 22, as I said, they're still around the region of Mount Sinai. And we see in Exodus 22, in verse 22, how God feels about the most vulnerable. He says, "You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If you afflict them in any way, and they cry out at all to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will become hot, and I will kill you with the sword. Your wives shall be widows, and your children fatherless." We can see some very strong language that's used here in Exodus 22. God is not is not soft-selling his feeling about the need for protection of the most vulnerable of society. He says, if they cry out at all to me, the fatherless or the widow, I will put you in the position they are. I will kill you with the sword, then your wives will be widows and your children fatherless. I can't think of any stronger language than that. God wanted the most vulnerable to be protected. Let's go forward in history just a little bit to Deuteronomy chapter 10. As you know, the Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years because of their unbelief in the promise of God. If you remember from Numbers chapter 13, God sent 12 spies into the promised land. He says, a land which I am going to give you. That was one spy for every tribe in Israel. Well, they went in for 40 days and came back and gave a report. And 10 of them said, what a marvelous land. It is flowing with milk and honey. It is just amazing, but there is no way we can conquer it. We are like grasshoppers in their sight. But the two faithful spies, Joshua and Caleb, who became important characters in Bible history later on, said, what are you talking about? God says he's giving it to us. Let's go in and take the land. Unfortunately, the multitude believed the 10 rather than the 2. And God was disturbed at their unfaithfulness. And he says, for every day the spies were in the land, you are going to march around this wilderness for 1 year. So for 40 years they marched around till that faithless older generation died off. Well, that's exactly what transpires. We pick up the story in Deuteronomy chapter 10. And in Deuteronomy chapter 10, there's a second giving of the law. It had been so long that they had received the original law that they were given the law once again as a reminder of how they were going to live when they got into the promised land. And so we see in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 17, for the Lord your God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality nor takes a bribe. He administers justice, that is, gives protection for the fatherless and the widow, and he loves the stranger, giving him food and clothing. And so we see our God has not changed. What he said in Exodus 22 remains in Deuteronomy chapter 10, that he wanted the most vulnerable to be protected. And we're also going to see that not only did he want them protected, he wanted them provided for. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 14, if you would, in verse 28. He has more to say about the fatherless and their loving care. At the end of every third year, you shall bring out the tithe of your produce of that year and store it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no portion nor inheritance with you, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow who are within your gates may come and eat and be satisfied, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. It's interesting to note that God makes him a promise. He says, if you'll provide for the most vulnerable society, including the fatherless and the widow, I will bless your hand in whatever you do. Look at Deuteronomy chapter 24. There's more provision that is called for by God for the most vulnerable of society. In Deuteronomy 24 and verse 19, when you reap your harvest in your field and forget a sheep in the field, you shall not go back to get it. It shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that the Lord your God, here's the same promise, may bless you in all the work of your hands. And when you beat your olive trees, you shall not go over the boughs again. It shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. And when you gather the grapes of your vineyard, and you shall not glean it afterward, it shall be for the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I command you to do this thing. Once again, this is not just a mere suggestion or a good idea. No, this is a commandment. You will provide for the fatherless and the widow. But you know, in verse 22, he makes an interesting statement that we just read. He said, and you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Why would God say that in the midst of giving provision for the most vulnerable? I believe it's because he wanted to remind the Israelites how hard they had it in Egypt and in slavery, and how difficult their lives were, and how difficult the life is for those that are fatherless and for widows, and the challenges that they face. You remember how hard it was for you and how hard it remains for them. You protect them. You provide for them. That's the nature of the God that we serve. And you may be saying to yourself, well, Dave, that's all wonderful and good, but this is the Old Covenant. This is the Old Testament. This is the law of Moses, and we're not bound by those laws. And I will say to you, you're exactly right. We are not. We are, however, bound by the law of Christ, the new law, the new covenant, the New Testament. Look, if you would, at James chapter 1 and verse 27. I propose to you that our God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His nature does not change. How he felt about the most vulnerable of society, the fatherless and the widow, he still feels today. And he still wants us to provide and to protect them. In James chapter 1, in verse 27, we have these words written by James. And he says this, pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this, to visit, that means to look after, provide for, to visit orphans and widows in their trouble. You mean it's still hard for the fatherless and the widow even today? It sure is. It's very difficult, very challenging. It has been throughout history. That's why they're the most vulnerable. So many have tried to take advantage of the widow and the fatherless because oftentimes they are in a position where they are powerless and vulnerable. And that's why he said they want them protected and provided. He says to visit widows, orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. It's interesting how God says this. He says if you want the purest expression of what you believe and practice in God, you do these two things. You take care of those who are less fortunate and more vulnerable. And you also keep yourself pure in your life. Keep yourself unspotted from the world. And so we see the commandment still remains for us today. And you're saying, well, Dave, that's an interesting view of history from the Old Testament to the New of the nature of God and those that are most vulnerable. But what does that have to do with Potter Children's Home? It has everything to do with it. As a matter of fact, what I have just shared with you is tied into our very mission statement at Potter. The mission of Potter Children's Home and Family Ministries is to be a tool in the hands of supporting churches of Christ, like you all, and individual Christians, you all as well, to deliver God's justice, that's his protection, and mercy, provision, to children and families in need. What I'm trying to tell you is we're trying to be as biblical as we possibly can in our ministry in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We believe that God wants us to protect, that is to provide justice, and to provide provision or mercy for children and families in need. And I thank you all for everything that you have done as partners in participating in this very ministry. Potter began in 1914. Clinton and Mary Potter began Potter Children's Home. They did it as a tribute concerning the death of their son who died as a result of typhoid fever complications. During that particular time, we've served over 7,000 people on the campus at Bowling Green. Think about that. Over the years, 110 of them, we've served over 7,000 children in their needs. We have nurtured them, loved them, taught them, trained them, both physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, that they might succeed in their lives. And whenever I go out and speak on behalf of Potter, I invariably have folks that say, I've had family members that have been at Potter. I've been at Potter, and so on and so forth. The 7,000 children, they say nearly close to 8,000 now, have gone out and have made an impact in the communities where they have lived. And they live all over the place. They have strengthened the churches where they've gone. Some of the young men have gone on to be gospel preachers, deacons, elders, Bible school teachers. Some of the young ladies have grown up and they have become preachers' wives, deacons' wives, elders' wives, some of them. They have been Bible school teachers, servants in the church. You see, the influence of Potter has been spread throughout the brotherhood because they have gone to many different places. We serve about 60 or 75 children a year. Sometimes the children are with us a short while other times they are with us a more lengthy time, sometimes all the way until their childhood ends and they go into adulthood. One of the great things we do is we provide Christian counseling for every resident in our facility. You can imagine what it's like to have a life that you've lived of abuse or neglect and the damage that it can do to somebody. You know, I work on campus every day when I'm not traveling on the road. And I see the transformations that take place, especially among the children. It's amazing. I'll give you just one brief story. There was a young man, when I'm in town, every once in a while, in a great while, I'm asked to drive the van to pick up the kids from school. And so I did one day, and there was a kid that got on the van that I had not yet met because I was on the road when he came in. And I said, "Hey, how are you doing today? Good to see you. My name's David." And he just looked right through me. Never said a word, went back and sat in his seat, never said anything. And I saw him on campus a few times and spoke to him. He spoke just a little bit. Well, about 6 months transpired toward the end of the school year, and I went and picked up the kids again, and he gets on the bus. And I said, "Hey, how was your day today?" "Best day of my life." I said, "Well, tell me about it." He said, "Man, I went out for the orchestra and I made first chair in my instrument." I said, "I'm so proud for you." He goes, "Best day ever." I said, "I didn't know you liked music." Well, he sat behind me and started talking about all the music that he knows and loves. And that boy would not shut up all the way back to Potter Children's Home. He was so excited. But that's the transformation. They come with walls up. They're afraid to talk to anybody. They don't want anybody talking to them, and they don't want to talk to anybody. But after a period of time, our counselors begin working with them. And the kids find out that there is somebody in this world that truly loves them and wants what's best for them. And they get that message. And as a result of that, the walls begin to drop and they start sharing the things that have affected them adversely in life. And then they are given the tools to process all the things that they've been through. And then the transformation begins. It's amazing. Some of the monies you give goes directly toward that counseling. On campus, we try to provide a home-like environment. Sometimes when people think of a children's home, they think of children being warehoused. And they're just taken to a cafeteria all at the same time to eat, and they all sleep, in an open area. And that's not Potter. We try to provide a home-like environment for them. And that home-like environment is important because someday we know that they're going to leave Potter and establish their own family. What better family to establish than a Christian family? So it gets modeled for them so they see firsthand what a loving husband and father is supposed to be, what a loving wife and mother, a Christian mother, is supposed to be, how children are to interact in a family, how love is shared and encouragement is given. We want them to leave establishing the right kind of home. We try to provide a safe place for the kids to play, and I was loading up my truck yesterday, and I saw the kids coming out. One was riding scooters, the other's kicking soccer balls and stuff like that. And they have no worries about any dangers in their life. They're not going to be harmed, and they know that. And it's a feeling of relief for these children, although I think I probably should change the picture. If you look, there's a young man buried up to his neck in sand. Now, that doesn't exude the idea of safety, does it? But I want to let you know that he was a willing participant. And he had fun the whole time. He got out, he's safe, and he's okay. I just want you to know that. I might need to change that picture, I don't know. But anyway, our children that come to us are referred through different sources. Sometimes congregations will call and asking for help, and we'll receive those children. Our goal is to reunify families. You know, I mentioned to you earlier that sometimes the kids are with us a short while, sometimes longer. Well, the reason is we reach out not only to the children in crisis, but the family as well. And we want to help them, if they're willing, to improve their home life, to turn chaos and confusion into a Christ-like atmosphere that they might receive their child back again. Some families are willing to do that, and they'll do anything to put their family back together again. And so the child stays with us a shorter period. Other families have said in times past, what we do is none of your business. We're not interested in your help. Well, there is no way we could place a child back in that environment. And so they stay with us a longer period of time. Like I said, sometimes through their childhood. I like these old pictures of the kids that we've served in times past and more recently as well. We don't discriminate in any form or fashion. It doesn't matter the race of the child, the ethnic background, the religious background, the social background. We want to help if we can help a child, so we do not discriminate. We have 3 ministries very quickly. Foster care is the main one, although right now we're needing help. We have 2 homes, cottages, sitting empty on our campus. A boys' cottage and a girls' cottage. And we need house parents, Christian couples, members of the church to step in and to serve in that capacity if they want. So I'm going to give you a 30-second commercial break, because every good program has one. We are soliciting, if you know of a Christian couple who would love to come to Bowling Green and minister in this way, please see me or call the main office. We would love to talk with you about being house parents. It's very important. There is right there the boys' cottage. That's the Riley house. And then there's also a girls' cottage as well. Most of the kids that we bring into Potter are school-aged, ages 6 to 18. And this is the Toddy house. This is a girls' cottage that has just been remodeled, beautifully done, but we need house parents for that. All of the meals are prepared in the home. They're not prepared in the cafeteria. And children are taught various responsibilities. Oh, the kids are in class, aren't they? I always like when the kids stay to ask them how many of them have chores, and they all raise their hands. Sometimes they raise both of them, you know, to make sure that I see them. And I ask them, do you do it the first time you're told? And they just kind of hang their head. And I said, well, don't worry about it. The kids in Potter don't either. They're like every other child. They need a little encouragement, and they need to be told more than once. But they're taught the responsibility of family. We try to provide that good, positive, home-like experience for the kids. There's access to transportation for the children, 15 passenger vans. They take the kids to school. They take them to all their extracurricular activities, so on and so forth. But the most important place they go is to the Lord's church. Every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, and every Wednesday. If you live or work on campus, you are required to do so. That's just that's the part of the way we minister. And we are not going to ask children, or we're going to see the single moms and their kids to go to church if the staff isn't willing to go. That's not a good example. So we all go. And there are 3 or 4 congregations of the Lord's people in Bowling Green where most of them go. We have a couple of single moms and their kids at South Warren where I preach. And we baptized one of the moms not too long ago. That was an exciting thing. The kids now have an opportunity to go to Foundation Christian Academy. They used to go to the public schools, but they have an option. Foundation Christian Academy in Bowling Green has about 450 students from preschool all the way through 12th grade, fully accredited, started by members of the church, teachers, staff, all members of the church. It is outstanding. The reason why I know that is my wife teaches there, and my fifth grade granddaughter, Emma Kate, goes there as well. And I'm in charge of homework at the house. She lives with us, and I'm already getting behind. I'm scrambling to keep up with what they're doing. And she's only in the 5th grade. They are very advanced. They do a great job. And they have the foundation of a Christian education there. And our kids at Potter get to go there now. The board of directors has agreed through the school for an arrangement for the kids to go at a reduced rate. It's marvelous. And that's just more of Christ, more of a Christian foundation for our kids at Potter. The off-campus foster care has Christian couples trained by Potter to do that as well. The second ministry quickly is the single parent family ministry. This one means a lot to me. As you know, we have a lot of parents in our culture today that are single parent families. I grew up in a single parent family in the 70s. I'm one of 6 children. My dad came in one day and said that he was leaving, and he left. And it was my mom, and there were 6 of us, and at that time in the 70s, there wasn't really a very strong social net to help out families. We struggled. It was hard. It was difficult, challenging. There was no Potter. There was no possible ministry like this. So when I came to work at Potter and learned about this ministry, it became near and dear to my heart. I feel for the single moms that come to campus. Some of them come into us literally living out of their cars. It was very, very difficult. And the kids are just precious. I feel for the children. I've been there, and the things that they have gone through, and the difficulties and the challenges. And I cannot tell you how beautiful it is to have a mom who hasn't really had any stable living condition receive an apartment on campus. It's just amazing. They'll open the door. We furnish it for them if they have no furnishings at all. And I'll show you the apartments. They're 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and we provide that for them, and the utilities and the food. And they just break out in tears because they know they're in a place where there's going to be stability for themselves and for their children. Now, we ask a lot in return. As a matter of fact, they fill out an application. They go through the interview process. It is explained all that's required. They're drug screened, everything. And they have to agree to several things when they come to Potter. First of all, they can't date anybody. They have to be fully focused on themselves and their children. They have to take parenting classes, finance classes. They have to agree to better themselves educationally and vocationally. And our moms have gotten their GEDs and gone on and gotten other certifications. Some moms who already had their high school diploma have gone on and gotten nursing degrees, IT degrees. They've gotten trade certifications. It is amazing to see these moms have an opportunity to grow, and they work and they use their monies to pay off any debts they have. We want them to be debt-free when they leave Potter. And our moms, if they stay with the program, do great things. Now, every once in a while, there's a mom that says, there's too much structure, too many demands, I'm not willing to do that. And they ask to leave the program. But for the moms that stay, and a vast majority that do, they always do well. And I'm so proud of them and what they can do for their families. And I know all these moms, they've been on campus since I've been there. It's called our SPARK ministry, Single Parent Alliance for Raising Kids. You have to have an acronym when you do that kind of stuff. You have to. So that's it, SPARK. And it is amazing the things that are done. You know, 33% of children in the U.S. come from fatherless homes. And nearly 50% of those are living below the poverty line. And so we see, 32%, my apologies, it's been upgraded, have a poverty rate. And we're trying to break that cycle for these moms, and they have done very well. We have 17 apartments on campus. Here is 3 of them in the Perry House. This is the Mueller House. It's a quadplex. It has 4 apartments in it. And then also, there's the newest one. This is the Rowe, R-O-W, house. It was donated by a family, the Rowe family, and their estate. And we don't build anything at Potter. We don't do any work at Potter, remodeling, restoration, unless it's already paid for. There is no debt at Potter. We believe we need to be good stewards of the monies that are given to us. And we're not going to go into debt and pay somebody else in order for us to do our ministry. And I want to let you know the monies you give are very well used. Potter lives below its means. That's the way I do it personally in my own family. And I won't work for an organization that spends wildly and is in debt and going in greater debt. I won't work for a group like that. And so that's why I still work at Potter. They always use the money they're given wisely, and they live below their means and are debt-free in that. That's some of the other pictures. We've got another one being built right now. Here's the picture of the 40 acres of campus. The first building, the smallest one, is our administration building. The building after that, the long building, is where our counseling suites are and family services. And then the number 3 behind that, I don't know if you can see it or not, most important building on campus, it's where my office is. All right, just want to see if you're still listening. It's not the most important. And in the back, you'll see a lot of buildings there, the 2 that I showed you, and a third one that has not yet been up. But then we have room for more houses for foster care and for single parent living. We have 40 acres that we live on in Bowling Green. It's a wonderful, wonderful ministry. I'm going to close out in about 2 seconds here. We have one final ministry. We have the foster care, single parent, and then the transitional living. If you know anything about foster care at age 18, children age out of the program. That is, they are expected to take care of all of life's matters on their own. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know many 18-year-olds that are able to do that. I remember at age 18, my children weren't even a second cousin close to ready to do that. They needed more of my money and more time and more training. And so they gradually made their way out of the nest and established their own independence. We do this for our kid. That young lady right there, her name is Elizabeth. She was a part of the transitional program, and she went to live with a family, and she went and got all of her insurance certifications, began her career in the insurance industry, and she is doing fabulous, wonderful. She is now married, has 2 children. But she said, I would not be where I am today without that help from dependence to independence, to have somebody give me time to build a career for myself. And she did that, and many kids have done that as well. And so we provide counseling for those kids because, they're going out into a big bad world there, and we want them to be prepared to make that transition. So we provide them with counseling and other things that will help them. Those are the three ministries that you help to support. Wonderful ministries. It's a great program, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. And I thank you for being a part of it. Your participation and your partnership allow us to do our work. We don't take any state or federal funds, $0. Because we know that if we did, there would be strings attached. Yeah. And we want to minister to these children and teach them the values that they need to know. There's one God, there's one Lord, one faith, one baptism. That's found in Ephesians 4:4 and following. We want to be able to teach that unhindered, and we do as a result. Thank you again for all that you do. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me afterwards. Thanks so much.